Is breaking a sport?
Nope.
But according to the definition, it is.
No, it's an art form.
Can't it be both? It's no different than figure skating, floor routines, and synchronized swimming.
But dance can't be judged.
Why not? It's subjective. And yet the whole world has no problem judging the art of the Australian breaker Raygun because she's objectively terrible. So you're saying breaking can be judged objectively? No. Well, it's just if we let breaking into the Olympics, we have to let jazz, ballet, ballroom, tap, popping, locking, crew competitions. And what's wrong with that?
How can two people compete without doing the same physical movement even once in an entire competition?
It's the choice of move, the timing, the execution, and the way it flows in and out of other moves.
But everyone dances. It's too casual of an activity to be in the Olympics.
Everyone runs, and yet we celebrate the fastest runners. Hell, the fastest walkers are considered Olympians. And if I'm being honest, dancing is way more complex than running. It's too complex for the average person to appreciate the differences in skill. Sure, it's easier to know who won a race than who won a battle, but that's why we have knowledgeable judges deciding who wins.
How knowledgeable can they be?
We've all seen crazier tricks on America's Got Talent or in the clubs of New York.
No,
you've seen a few stunt highlights on social media and maybe a choreographed routine or two. Breaking is a freestyle battle sport. It requires on-the-fly musicality to songs they've never heard, foundational technique, movement, vocabulary, and psychological tactics to outwit opponents.
It just doesn't look that physically impressive to me.
Is curling physically impressive to you? No, but... And they're doing it by spinning, contorting, and flipping on beat. What other sport utilizes as much human physical range as breaking? But it's an American thing. Olympic sports are supposed to be globally played and recognized. Just because you don't attend international battles doesn't mean they don't exist. But it still feels like cultural appropriation to let nations misrepresent Black American culture. Judo was once only Japanese. Taekwondo was Korean, archery was English, curling was Scottish, ski jumping was Norwegian.
And look at how few people are aware of where those sports came from.
American hip-hop culture was spread by its creators so that it might be adopted by the world. It's only because breaking was in the Olympics that you even had the incentive to find out where it came from, proving that its Olympic exposure is a more powerful conduit for cultural knowledge than banning it. Come on, you have to admit, it's kind of cringe to see white people doing this dance. It's cringe to see people do the dance poorly, regardless of race. But it's also inspiring to see people of all races trying to learn and empathize with a culture they didn't grow up in. Why didn't I see any clips of Olympic breakers who were actually talented? All everyone's talking about is Raygun. Breaking, Raygun, Olympics. It was all a recipe for virality. How so? Firstly, Olympics are global, so there's mass relatability. Breaking, as a culture, is still young and vulnerable, so the culture doesn't have enough support to defend itself at the scale of mass media. And let's not forget that Raygun is a white woman, which apparently makes her privileged to the point of emotional invincibility to verbal cruelty. Well, she kind of fanned her own flame by blaming the patriarchy for the hate, instead of owning up to the fact that she really wasn't any good. Look, no one in the breaking community actually thinks she deserved to be on that stage. Someone must have. She did manage to battle her way to the Olympics after all. She only had to compete against whoever entered, and tons of amazing B-girls didn't enter.
Because they had no lead time or money to enter.
Or there just isn't enough talent. Even if that were the case, which it's not, talent can only be developed to the extent of the rewards available to those who practice it. Olympic recognition will increase funding, sponsorship, opportunities that can incentivize breaking as a full-time job. Whatever the excuse for the poor turnout, it's clear Raygun's performance killed off any chance of breaking returning to the Olympics. But if we judged every sport by the last place participant, there wouldn't be any sports left in the Olympics. You're just defending appropriation. You're silencing culture. They're making a mockery of the Olympics. You wouldn't even know the Olympics took place if it wasn't for breaking.
Breaking will make you popular again. Okay.
Clearly, breaking is an art form and a sport. But unlike other sports, a battle's success and failure is time, crowd, opponent, culture, and music dependent. Therefore, a round's value is as fleeting as the memes that surround it. A year later, it might be difficult to remember exactly why one move was so influential and others weren't. But that doesn't change the impact it had in that moment. Its consideration in the Olympics marks a subtle shift away from the glorification of rote repetition to an acknowledgement of the messy, momentary human sparks of genius and disaster that truly define our species. And I know you all think you're merely pointing out Raygun's obvious lack of skill, and perhaps you are, but the vitriol surrounding her story can easily send the message that trying to do something you aren't very good at is a punishable offense. Blame whoever you want for her being in the wrong place and wrong time. But if you want the next generation to develop their creative abilities, to find purpose in their humanity rather than their failure to mimic machines, then we need to start rewarding creativity on a global stage. And it's only with the continued existence of an Olympic platform for breaking that we will ever get the opportunities that incentivize breakers, and dancers in general in all countries, to train with the same vigor and intensity as the best that the culture has to offer. But if we let a single poor performance diminish our respect for an entire sport, we do more harm to the cultural significance of breaking and hip-hop in general than Rachel Gunn's subpar moves ever could.